Saint Augustine, commentary on the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verse 24 to 30, following. He then adds, "After this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, said, I thirst. Now there was set a vessel full of vinegar, and they filled a sponge with vinegar, and fixed it upon hyssop, and put it to his mouth. When Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, It is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost." Who has the power of so adjusting what he does, as this man had of arranging all that he suffered? But this man was the mediator between God and man, the man of whom we read in prophecy, "His man also, and who shall acknowledge him? For the man who did such things acknowledged not this man as God. For he who was manifest as man was hid as God. He who was manifest suffered all these things, and he himself also, who was hid, arranged them all. He saw therefore that all was accomplished, that required to be done before he received the vinegar and gave up the ghost, and that this also might be accomplished which the scripture had foretold, and in my thirst they gave me vinegar to drink. He said, I thirst, as if it were, one thing still you have failed to do, give me what you are. For the Jews were themselves the vinegar, degenerated as they were from the wine of the patriarchs and prophets, and filled like a full vessel with the wickedness of this world, with hearts like a sponge, deceitful in the formation of its cavernous and tortuous recesses. But the hyssop whereon they placed the sponge, filled with vinegar, being a lowly herb, and purging the heart, we fitly take for the humility of Christ himself, which they thus enclosed and imagined they had completely ensnared. Hence we have it said in the psalm, You shall purge me with hyssop, and I shall be cleansed. Psalm 69, verse 21. Psalm 51, verse 7. For it is by Christ's humility that we are cleansed, because had he not humbled himself and became obedient unto the death of the cross, his blood certainly would not have been shed for the remission of sins, or in other words, for our cleansing. Nor need we be disturbed with the question how the sponge could be applied to his mouth when he was lifted up from the earth on the cross. For as we read in the other evangelist, what is omitted by this one, it was fixed on a reed, so that such drink as was contained in the sponge might be raised to the highest part of the cross. Matthew chapter 27 verse 48 and Mark chapter 15 verse 36. By the reed, however, the scripture was signified, which was fulfilled by this very act. For as a tongue is called either Greek or Latin, or any other significant of the sound which is uttered by the tongue, so the reed may give its name to the letter which is written with the reed. We most usually, however, call those tongues that express the sounds of the human voice, while in calling Scripture a reed, the very rareness of the thing only enhances the mystical nature of that which it symbolizes. A wicked people did such things, a compassionate Christ suffered them. They who did them knew not what they did. But he who suffered not only knew what was done and why it was so, but also what was good through those who were doing what was evil. When Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, "It is finished." What but all that prophecy had foretold so long before? And then, because nothing now remained that still required to be done before he died, as if he, who had power to lay down his life and to take it up again, had at length completed all for whose completion he was waiting. He bowed his head and gave up the ghost. Who can thus sleep when he pleases, as Jesus died when he pleased? Who is there that thus puts off his garment when he pleases, as he put off his flesh at his pleasure? Who is there that thus departs when he pleases, as he departed this life at his pleasure? How great the power to be hoped for or dreaded that must be his as judge, if such was the power he exhibited as a dying man?